But in this example, we're going to do an application of rational expressions. And the problem is to find a rational expression for the total amount of fence needed to fence in this area. Let's assume that there's no fence needed along the river. And let's say a farmer is going to put horses in here or something. And we'll assume the horses aren't going to swim in the river. Okay, or you could think of this as a building, something like that. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need, because this is a rectangular pasture, let's call this distance x, and let's call this distance y. Then what is the total amount of fence needed? Well, it's this plus this plus this. Again, we don't need fence along the river, so the total fence needed is going to be x plus y, or x plus 2y. But we want an expression in one variable, not two. So we could figure out the value of y from the information here. The area is 4,000 square feet. The area of a rectangle is length times width. Therefore, xy must equal 4,000. Now we can solve this equation for y by dividing both sides by x. And we find y is equal to 4,000 over x. Now that we know the value of y, we can go back to our expression for the total amount of fence. And for y, we plug in 4,000 over x. So we get x plus 2 times y, but again, for y, we're plugging in 4,000 over x. And this, again, if you want to think of this like this, we get x plus 8,000, 2 times 4,000, over x. Well, let's write this as a single expression, not the sum of two terms. So to add this, we need a common denominator. So we multiply by x over x. And we see the total fence needed is going to be x squared plus 8,000 over our common denominator of x. And that is the expression for the amount of fence we need. It's a function of x. It depends how big we make this. And it's probably a good idea here to explain, when you have a rectangle. So to get 4,000 square feet in here, there's a lot of choices, right? You could have 4,000 long, 1 deep, 1 foot deep. That's a pretty long pasture. I don't know how happy the horses would be. They'd have to be pretty skinny horses. But anyways, that's one way you could do it. But there's other ways, right? We could have 20 by 20 is 400, so 20 by 200 is 4,000. And just show them that as we do 4,000 by 1 foot, that's an area of 4,000, but the total fence is 8,002. If we were to pick, erase this, if we were to lay this out with the river here, and we were to construct the pasture, let's say this was 200 feet and this was 20, well, 20 times 2 is 4,000, 20 times 200. But what is the total amount of fence? 440, which is a lot less. So there are different answers depending on how you set up the pasture.